One young girl sent me an email asking about what is devotion to God. And she said, unlike her mother, she is not fond of puja and rituals, having a mandir, praying before a deity. It does not appeal to her. So her mother keeps telling her that what she is doing is wrong. By not building this devotion to God, by not praying before deity, it is incorrect. So she used to cry at night, thinking that something was really wrong with her. And then she came across the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj, which didn't make sense to her. But yet, she felt calm. She could not understand why. And subsequently, she found some of my videos on the net. And that is what drew her to this teaching. So she asked a very simple question. She said, I don't understand what is devotion to God the way my mother has devotion to God. So what is devotion to God in this teaching? In very simple words, please tell me. When I said the simplest meaning of that, without any big words, concepts which are difficult to grasp, is devotion to peace. Devotion to peace of mind in daily living is devotion to God. So she said, how so? This was a dialogue over 2-3 emails. She said, how so? She said, I have no problem accepting that devotion to God is devotion to peace of mind, but how so? So I said, it's even simpler. All you have to do is inquire what disturbs your peace. What disturbs your peace during the day? And you will realize invariably that it is a thought of something someone has done, either someone else or yourself. Why did he do this to me? Why did she say this? How dare he say that? Blame, condemnation, hatred, jealousy, envy, malice. These thoughts disturb the peace. But if you accept that everyone like yourself is an instrument of God, conditioned the way God conditioned them, right from childhood, how their parents treated them, the school they went to, the religion they were born into, the geographical area they were born in. All these factors made them who they are. And when you live with this understanding, you realize that people are precisely the way God has made them. There were so many factors over which they did not have any control, just like you did not have control over your conditioning. So a deep understanding arises in daily living. And with that, thoughts which were crowding one's mind start dropping off. The thinking mind, which is so active, going into the imaginary future or the dead past, starts getting disengaged. What happens when the thinking mind starts getting disengaged? The pure presence, which is always there, which was earlier covered by the thinking mind, starts shining through. So life is now lived with presence. One starts abiding in one's being, as Maharaj would say, abiding in the I am, as a natural outcome of this, not as a method of abiding in the I am. And that is what prompted Maharaj to say when someone asked him that how come you don't advocate worshipping Shiva, Vishnu, Ganesha? He said because they would not exist if your sense of being were not there. They exist in your mind because you are. So who is the God? Your sense of being or an object in your consciousness? Which means this is worship of God. When you abide in your being, you are worshipping God. There is another benefit of this, because invariably I see people who are on the bhakti path, sometimes their love is so much for God and their relationship with Krishna or whoever the deity is, but their personal relationships are in a mess. They don't get along with siblings. They fight with people in the office. Now, with the understanding, it transforms these relationships. So you're living with this worship throughout the day. You may not be performing a ritual, but supposing you now started functioning with the full knowledge that just as in the kitchen there are different gadgets, each designed to produce what it is designed to. The toaster can only make toast. Juice cannot come out of the toaster. The juicer will make juice. The microwave will heat the food. But without electricity, they are all dead objects. They cannot function. Now the electricity which runs through all the gadgets is the same. It's not different electricity. So when you live with this understanding that it is the same consciousness which is animating all of us, but each is designed a certain way. They think a certain way, the way they have been designed to. What happens is you stop taking things personally. It's no longer me versus the other anymore, which has been one's mantra so far. It now shifts to me and the other. And me and the other, whoever the other may be. Right from a family member to a stranger on the street. One starts losing one's sense of preference of who is close and who is far, because one is seeing with an even vision. That is why they say the sages don't discriminate or differentiate between someone who's been coming to them for 10 years and someone who lands up today. Because they are not looking at individuals. Their sight has moved beyond the gadgets straight to the presence, to the electricity. That is worshipping God. But it's so simple that people don't appreciate its value. I met a Devi Bhakt 2 days ago. Wonderful man. Very clear that he had been gifted certain powers thanks to his devotion to the Devi. And then he said to me that what is all this Advaita business, Ramana Maharshi? What is all this nonsense? It is too cold an approach. I don't buy it. I said, all right. Because I am not there to convince you. I said, but if a path shows you that not only everyone but everything is God. What can be a higher form of bhakti than that? That please explain to me. And he got very upset. I said, if worshipping the Devi is worshipping consciousness, the divine feminine, and if one's daily living is a worship of that, what is a greater Devi worship? If I have the full understanding that whatever happens, whether I like it or not, is God's will, else it would not have happened. What is a bigger form of worship of God? Why has Shirdi Sai Baba as well as Nisargadatta Maharaj said that what comes to you unasked, whether you like it or not, is what is meant to come to you? If I accept that totally, is there a greater worship? If I accept my pain, knowing that I don't blame anyone for it, I have the full understanding that it is there. So I face it totally, without the additional baggage of hating people, my circumstances, and always finger pointing. If I accept it as pain which is meant to be suffered, instead of always running away from it, trying to avoid it, isn't that also worship of God? If I accept totally that life means duality, that is my own experience. Up and down, black and white, rich and poor, health and disease, pleasure and pain. If I accept that as the design of life, knowing that I cannot have only one thing, I cannot have only pleasure, 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 because life is not designed that way. When I accept that, what happens? I stop this constant running away from my situation and from my circumstances, or pinning the blame on someone. That nonsense stops, because I accept that this is the design of life. It does not mean you embrace the pains, but you accept them. That yes, there are moments where there will be pains, there are moments where there will be pleasures. That is why Maharaj said that pain is the Or rather, pleasure is the interval between two pains. So acceptance of what is worship of God. And accepting that things happen, just like your breathing happens. If we can accept that things happen just like breathing happens, breathing does not require a me for the breathing to happen. Do I have any control over the next breath? Do I have any control over the pumping of my heart? There's a common analogy of the wave thinking it is separate from the ocean and that other waves are separate from it. And it's a very common spiritual analogy. But I read a very ancient text, I've forgotten which one, which said that even the ocean doesn't realize that it is held together thanks to gravity. If gravity were not there, water would be flying all over and we human beings would be flying all over the place. So even the fact that we are sitting here, if you discount everything else and say I have control over my breath, I can control which veins my blood is going in. But if it were not for gravity, where would you be? Is gravity in one's control? Which is that hidden force which you cannot see, which is in charge of this operation. Is this your first time here? How old are you? Been following any practice or path?
I've been hearing some discourses of some other guru.
And since when were you interested in the subject?
In the last 2 years.
Did something happen or it just arose on its own?
When my mother left her a couple of years back, and post that it occurred to me. It was like,
Generally, that's what happens. Suffering and a sense of loss pulls one on the path. For some people, it happens very early in life. Because then you question, what is this life about? What is the point of it if we are going to lose the ones we love? These questions start arising. Is life worth living if I am going to die?
See, what happens, this is our third time here. I heard you, understood, felt good, okay? I went to Shirdi last Thursday, Friday was there. On the way back, I've been associated with the ashram for 7 years. I've come back to Bombay because of some event. I get a call from the ashram and then I blast at that Swami. Because everything, all that bitterness is coming out. You see, it's not easy to let go. So, how do you make, I understand, okay, the same electricity flows, everything is the same. But when it comes on yourself, it's not easy. So, how do you make it a part of your life, Gautam? It doesn't happen that easy. It's easy. You remember, then you forget. When that somebody from that place comes up, then you forget. So, how do you make it you, this teaching that is saying?
So that is what has to be given up. This, how do you make it you?
Achha.
That is the problem.
Okay.
You see, you come across a teaching when you are meant to. Any teaching. The circumstances in your life which were not created by you, or whatever it be. So that intelligence, that part of the divine nature has to be trusted to do its job. Now there are so many factors which make one react. It could just be the position of the planets in one's horoscope. Let's say you have the angry planets, as they call, or Mars or whatever. I don't know much about astrology, but I know many astrologers as friends. So some people are prone to anger. It is their nature, let's say, right? But what happens between what is a blind anger, which then there's involvement in the duration of time, which is the real problem, and what happens in a natural spontaneous arising, which then dissipates immediately because there's no involvement invested in the anger. That is where the teaching comes in.
No, but afterwards the guilt comes. No, why did I get angry?
So that is where the teaching comes in again. Because the understanding is that if it was really in my control, I would not have got angry. It actually proves that it is not in my control. But what happens, which is beautiful, is witnessing starts happening. Witnessing of patterns, witnessing of reactions. Oh my God, anger arose. That was not there earlier. Now the awareness is there. Earlier it was blind anger and reactivity and engagement and conflict. Now the realization is there. My God. Like you said, now I know that it's the same electricity. Was that there earlier? No. That is how the teaching has come in. A torch has now been shining light on something you were not looking at earlier. So the understanding starts operating. Not the you who's going to make an effort to sort this whole mess out about why do I get angry. It is seen in a neutral light without judgment. I don't know what my hormone levels were half an hour ago, supposing. I'm a blood pressure patient, I'm prone to get angry. So many factors, multiple possibilities of why anger arose will make one realize it's truly not a matter of choice. Let's say a parent, the child has behaved very badly at home and then the parent has gone to work. So the parent is ticked off like this if something happens. So what were the factors which led to that? Were those in the parent's control? Those were not in the parent's control. Let's say the child scribbled with crayon all over the living room wall, which is newly painted, and the next minute is a big meeting for the parent. So you see, everything around you is not controlled by you. Now you want to go and control the anger. This is the opposite. This is the seeing, the impersonal seeing of what is happening. Because then what will happen? Anger may arise, but you will not resent the other person like you did earlier. You will not resent yourself like you do. You are not judging yourself all the time that I should not be this way, I should only be this way. That should is now looked at. And this witnessing is what starts changing the dynamic over time. Sometimes like this. That starts changing the dynamic. Whereas you would not have picked up the phone and told this person earlier whom you were angry with. You may just after 5 minutes say, hey, I'm really sorry, I lost my cool. I didn't mean to. That may start happening. Because you are no longer holding on to what the other did, which made you angry, or what you did, which made you angry. That starts transforming relationships. We are working on a very important book, big production, on a very big sage who is no more. Now the lady who has written the book, wonderful person, but with a very short fuse. So nobody gets along with her, I mean, our relationship is only to do with the publishing of the book. But invariably I'll get a call that I don't want to talk to her again. I don't want to deal with her again. It would be either my own staff or it would be somebody who knows we are involved in publishing this book. You know what she did? This is what she said. Or her own group of guru brothers and sisters, some of whom I know. My blood pressure is thanks to her. Earlier I never had blood pressure. So one day I was traveling in the car and she said something. And I was a bit short on her because I said, look, I don't have time to get into these engagements, and I'm putting the phone down because otherwise there was no option to put the phone down. So I called her back when I reached the office. So I said, see, I understand your point of view, where you're coming from, but everything does not work the way you want it to. She said, everyone gets upset with me, even you got upset with me. But what to do? I am like this only. That is it. You see, that admission of that is it says everything. Means I can't help it. Now, if everyone around her had that understanding that she can't help it, what would their relationship be with her? They may still get bugged. We are human beings. We are all not Buddhas sitting here. But immediately the involvement is cut off. You will love her as much. You will not differentiate that I love this person less because of how this person is. You may in fact love this person more because in spite of how that person is, you will love the person. Dipesh, can you see if the lights have gone out?
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah, if you just look through the main door, because it's been happening that the whole building's lights are going off. So you see, that is what is actually love. You love people in spite of what they are and who they are. Can there be a greater love than that? Otherwise, it's a love of convenience. Because there are certain things about you which I like, therefore I love you. That is a convenient love. You make me feel special, so I love you. Convenient love. Is convenient love love? Ananda, the remote is there of the AC, I think. This one. You might have to. This is not about convenient love. The person who pushes your buttons the most they are your greatest teachers. And one day you will smile when your buttons are pushed. And you will say, I know you're not doing it to me. I mentioned this in one video recently. We are doing a series on the teachings of Shirdi Sai Baba. I don't know if you all have seen these episodes. 3 episodes are up. And I used a phrase which I was asked to speak about at a talk at some future point. That phrase which I used, which just came spontaneously, was circling back to the me. I said that look at your day, that how many times you're circling back to me. For example, Take the most mundane things first. Someone says, I saw so and so movie and I hated it. And your immediate reaction is, oh, I loved it. Or someone says, I went to Bhutan and I was not much impressed. And you say, oh, I went to Bhutan, but I thought it was fabulous. How could you say this, that you were not impressed by Bhutan? Are you crazy? Have you not seen the nature, the beauty, the silence, the quietness? If you start observing in a day how many times you are circling back from any conversation which anyone says to the me, you will be astonished. My likes, this is what I feel, this is my viewpoint, this is my opinion. What happens? This circling back to the me starts disengaging. Why? Because if someone went to Bhutan and they didn't have a good experience, that is accepted. You may still say that, oh, my experience was quite the contrary. But the flavor, the language, the place you are coming from is not in opposition to the other person's viewpoint. Generally, we are opposed because we are threatened. This me is threatened because I liked something and the other person didn't like it. We are circling back to the me all the time. He said this to me. How could this happen to me? I am a good person. How could this happen to me? Which is the obsession with the me. You told the other person they are looking so good in that dress. You didn't tell me I am looking good in this dress. How many times is the me circling back to the me? This can be a meditation practice. That is why I will never tire of saying what Maharaj said. When he said, instead of saying, I see something, means not saying it, but when you see things, or I hear something, change it to something is seen and something is heard. Which means, it is not something is seen by a me and something is heard by a me with a sense of doership. Something is seen, something is heard. You will start laughing when you see how many times you are circling back to the me during the course of the day. It reminds me of something I used to say very often in the earlier talks about my own spiritual teacher and one lawyer, wonderful man, but being a lawyer, he could not help himself. So once the satsang got over, just a minute before, he would raise his hand to ask questions. And it would be like in a courtroom. He would ask Rameshji a question, Rameshji, he would say, but, and then Rameshji would answer, he said, no, but sir, I think like that. So at the end, everyone was getting impatient, time was running out, and so Rameshji would tell him, okay, you have the last word and let's end this conversation. And being a lawyer, he would tell Rameshji, he said, but sir, you telling me to have the last word means you have the last word. It doesn't end. Telling me to have the last word means you are having the last word. You see, it doesn't end.
In the last meet where we had a silent sitting, in the evening, being Independence Day, we all cousins had a small gathering. And we were around about 10 to 15, and I was asked to prepare tea for everyone. So I went into the kitchen, I made ready all the ingredients for the preparation of tea, and I was waiting that I would be making some special tea for everyone so that I can get the credit. After the tea being made, I served to everyone, and all said, "Oh yeah, it's very nice." Some said the sugar is a bit more. Some said chai ka masala thoda kam. So there were good and bad reviews. But after we had this gathering, and when I was traveling back in the train, and I was going back home, I realized that what if one of the ingredients would have been missing? If, for example, the gas stove is not there, how could I have made tea? If the tea leaves would have not been there, how could I have made tea? So if there would have been no ingredient, I would have been totally helpless. I would have not made a tea. So like all, then I realized that even the maker of the tea is one of the main ingredients to make the tea.
Sure. But you see,
if all would have been given the conscious quality, the sugar would have said, "Oh, I made a tea."
exactly.
The teas would have said, "Oh, I made a tea."
But more importantly, why do we want everyone to appreciate the tea which we made? We live for that. We thrive on that appreciation. You did a great job, Dipesh, of making the tea. Fantastic. But if Dipesh has the understanding that I truly didn't make the tea, I'm fond of tea. I know how to prepare a nice cup. But so many factors are not in my control, including my fondness for tea, because others are not fond of tea as much as me. Then Dipesh, who knows, is no longer searching for that pat on the back from everyone. That pressure is released off as far as Dipesh is concerned. Yet, if the tea is appreciated, pleasure will arise because we are humans. That, oh wow, you liked it, I'm so happy. But with the full understanding that it was not my effort alone which led to them enjoying the tea. And you know, it may sound absurd, but so many factors. I mean, they needed to have tongues to taste your tea. Did you give them the tongues? It sounds silly, but I'm just trying to show that when the me realizes that there's so much which just is beyond one's comprehension, what will happen if in that gathering a few of them told Dipesh that, you know, we didn't enjoy the tea? He may feel bad, but will he feel guilty that, my God, I did something wrong which I should not have? No, because Dipesh will have the full understanding that life means duality. Some will enjoy the tea, some will not enjoy the tea. So Dipesh is at peace, knowing that while the intentions were good, the results are not in his control. Can he guarantee that everyone will enjoy the tea? No. So who is at peace? The one who lets go, or the one who starts worrying till the night, my God, what did I do wrong with the tea? Why did I go wrong? Why was I not present enough to put the right degree of sugar to everyone's liking? That's the sense of doership. When the sense of doership is given up, what results is peace of mind. When this why did I get angry is given up, what results? In this dream was a moment of anger which is now long gone. It's the past. Is anything permanent in this world, including my anger? Are you angry right now? Or are you angry with me for saying something which doesn't make sense to you? Anger is gone. Do you recall your dreams of yesterday, last night, and wonder about them and worry about them and say, why did this person in the dream do this? Why did this person in the dream do that? It's finished. The dreams come and the dreams go. In the dream, there are good people and bad people. But when you wake up, is there any differentiation between good and bad? Both were part of the dream. The good and bad were part of the dream. And they are part of the living dream of life. And living with this means not getting swayed by it anymore. Not getting battered and bruised by life. Blaming God. Why did you do this to me? What have I done wrong? That also happens. Why are you punishing me? Who's asking the question? And how we are as human beings. You lose a loved one. But till you lose the loved one, do you thank God every day for having that loved one in your life? Many people don't. It is only when it's taken away, you feel the loss. And then you ask God, why did you do this? But why not change that to being thankful to God? That thank you for bringing this person into my life for all this time. I know everything is transient. I know everyone's date is fixed. But for whatever little time, Lord, you gave me with this person, I truly thank you for that. Even the people I don't like, because I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about people, how they are. And you have given me that opportunity. It was tough for me. It was rough for me. But life is about learning, and I'm thankful for that. Why not let life be an expression of gratitude to God? Thank you for the moments of peace which I have, which others don't. Those who I see begging on the streets in a poor condition, and you have given me enough to wear a decent shirt and pant. I really truly thank you for that. I had gone to meet someone who's into acupuncture, and one lady came there who had lost her sense of taste, young lady. She has a condition called myasthenia gravis. I think it paralyzes part of the muscles of the face and the tongue. And I was sitting there and I thought, really, are we so even aware that we should be thankful to God for the sense of taste when you eat your food? No, it's taken for granted. and I'm judging the food as tasty, not tasty, the chef should have done this, should have not. And now there's a person who has lost the sense of taste and is in panic. She was white and crying and saying, please help me get back my sense of taste. See, there's so much we take for granted, and we are always focused only what is worrying us and troubling us. What about all these things? This is the dream of life. As the Zen master said, this is the dream of life from which we will wake up when we are dead. When Goraknath said, die, O yogi, die, what did he mean was to look at the me with its sense of doership. Die, O yogi, die, so that you realize there is no death. Death of the me. Why is dying in one's sleep a beautiful thing? Many people say, I wish I die in my sleep because then I won't know. Because, and no doubt it is, or unless you go in samadhi, because there is no me. In deep sleep, to worry about dying and death, because the me is already dead. The sheer fact that one cannot change one's reactions, you have yourself seen the limitations of what one can do and cannot do. Yes?
6 years I stayed in an ashram, I wouldn't be believe this.
Daily living is one's ashram.
Which I understand now.
Daily living is the ashram. And daily living is the meditation. The ashram is inside. Not to have a sense of differentiation with others, when we build barricades and walls between us and them. That is building an ashram. Accepting people for who they are is living in an ashram. If I'm not mistaken, one meaning of ashram is a place of rest. Being comfortable with others is the ashram. Being comfortable with yourself is the ashram. On the tombstones, when people are buried, they say, rest in peace. But that is obvious. Live in peace. Live in peace. That is why Shirdi Sai Baba has said that even if a beggar comes up to you whom you don't like, don't give money. No compulsion. But don't bark at them. These are the words. Don't bark at them or treat them like dogs. Because they too are part of me. That is what he meant. He didn't mean when he would say that, see everyone's form as my form, that you actually see Sai Baba with his kafni and all sitting where Dipesh is sitting, Manuja is sitting, Mahadevan is sitting, Asha is sitting. He meant that if you see everyone is an aspect of the divine, that is all I ask of you. Simple. That's all. Not that difficult. Would you like to ask anything?
It's a little different. How does one can clear your memory structure? All that is there in one's memory. Is there a way to clear?
Who created memory? Did you create it? Memory is a part of the mechanics of the brain, right? So what is bothering you about memory is the memory of what someone has done to you, and that part gets erased by the teaching. You cannot erase memory. You wouldn't be alive without memory. Yet, it is a very good question you have asked, because for the first 2 or 3 years when the baby is born, there is no memory operating. The baby is just being. What happens is that when that baby starts realizing that now I have noticed that when I cry, my mother comes running, that's when the ego starts getting formed, because the baby, through no choice of the baby, has started seeing that there's a center here to which people are responding. Now earlier that was not there for the baby. There was pure being and the universe was providing for the baby. The baby did not know it existed. That is the purest form of being. Then this structure starts seeing that if I cry a little loudly, this person comes running. This person which later on the baby is told is its mother. That is when the memory starts forming, because the memory is that if I do this, this starts happening. That is the birth of memory, and that becomes the burden of memory. And the burden of memory is what others did to me, what happened to me in my life. That is what you are asking about. So the way to erase it is to accept. Acceptance is the way. Because there is something in memory which is bothering you, which makes you feel sad.
But that also acts as an impediment to your being. That is how I see it.
Can you give an example?
Generally the mind, it runs here and there. So without memory or with, if you have more thoughts, more stuff in your memory, more active your mind would be. Then the flow of being would not be there.
So we started this talk with that only. The disengaging of the thinking mind.
But if there is more stuff around, how can you disengage?
You cannot disengage. Disengaging happens. Because if you try to disengage, you are creating further engagement and building further memory. You are adding to the burden of the memory. The end of doership is the end of that burden. Resting in being is when the thinking mind, which is going into the imaginary future and the dead past, when it stops doing that, that is being in the moment. It is the nature of life. For example, you put your hand in fire. It is the memory you have to be thankful for. Otherwise, every time you'll put your hand in the fire, right? Thanks to memory, you will not put the hand in the fire. What happens is that what is pure memory gets burdened by these concepts of I did this, therefore I should not do this again, and that is the structure of memory which is carried. That is the part of memory which needs to drop away, which is what we talked about, which happens. So, you have a sibling, let's say you don't get along with, or a close friend, and what happens after an incident which upsets you? With the full understanding, you will go and embrace him or her later, right? What has happened? The burden of the memory has dropped away. Otherwise, you would hold on to that. And then the memory of what someone did starts troubling you. This is precisely the point. But at the same time, if I pressed a button now and wiped out your entire memory, what would be left? The sense of being. You'd still know that you exist, but you would not know that you exist as a separate person. What is your name?
Chinmaya.
Chinmaya. You would not know I am Chinmaya because that memory has gone. There would be no one to know that. But right now, the person who doesn't want the memory is still there. But when that person goes with the memory, who will be left to enjoy the absence of memory? You want to enjoy the absence of the burden of memory, but there will be no you left to enjoy that absence. Just as in a samadhi, there is no you who is left. But we are dealing with life and daily living. Is it your first time?
Yeah.
You're from Bombay?
I'm from Rajasthan, but long, so many years.
And what brought you here?
Because recently during Guru Purnima, I used to go to Jamnagar, my people were there. And then, so that our Guru guys introduced us, we talked about the, and I followed you on the YouTube.
Okay.
But my Guru happened to be at, there is one incident with Mr. Pratimala. My very good enlightened soul. So I used to go there every, even after that Rascot, I was settled at Rascot. I used to go every Sunday over there. I always stayed with him also for 6 months when I was in deputation of my job. So he narrated one incident with Mr. Pratimala. We went to Rama Mercy's ashram once. There he came in his mind some intuition he got that I'm not here, we go to visit with his Maharaj at Bombay. So he came back to Bombay. He got down at Bombay Central Station without any address and everything, but he just kept on walking. But at the same time, Mr. Maharaj, he told to his disciples sitting in the meeting that there is someone enlightened soul is coming, you prepare yourself to welcome him. So he just went there inside on the gate and everybody welcomed him. It means that Mr. Maharaj had already come to know that this
Right.
enlightened soul coming to me. And he just, without any guidelines or suggestions, he just got down at Bombay Central Station and went to Mr. house. This is one incident he told.
Yeah.
So your connection with Mr. Maharaj and Ramesh Balsekar, all this was come across during this Guru Purnima. So my friend, they are told about this thing. I thought that's the one enlightenment going on.
Yeah.
So I came down to you first. In my son died.
Oh. What was your guru's name?
Vyas, C.R. Vyas.
So he was in Rajkot,
He was at Jamnagar.
Jamnagar.
Even Osho had offered him to run his ashram.
Hmm.
Then Vimla died, Mount Abu.
Vimla Thakkar.
Vimla,
Vimla
Thakkar,
Hmm.
yeah. And J. Krishnamurti. Whenever discourses in India at all, and he was attending these discourses, he always goes to him, C.R. Vyas, and meet him.
Okay.
It's always it. So that level of his consciousness, the level of this alignment was very good. But he was connected with all these spiritual people.
It's great because, as Shirdi Sai Baba says, that it's a good opportunity to be in the company of such masters and sages, and one should take advantage of that.